The 20 most important figures of speech. Irony. Irony is a statement which conveys the exact opposite meaning of what is literally being said. It is also a statement which contradicts the situation. For example, the pilot had a fear of flying. The fire station burnt to the ground. "What lovely weather," she said when it was raining. Lightities. Lightities is an understatement which applies a negative to express the meaning of the affirmative. For example, "That dress is not too bad. I wasn't unhappy with the gift. She isn't the friendliest woman in the world." Metaphor. Metaphor is when there is a comparison made between two different things which share something in common. For example, "His eyes were ice." "The world is your oyster." "She was the shining star of the talent show." Have you heard someone say, "That's just a figure of speech"? Maybe you weren't quite sure what that meant. Well, you're about to find out. The figures of speech in English have long names, many adapted from Greek and Latin by grammarians in the 19th century. But really, a figure of speech is just what we call an alteration of normal language in order to achieve a specific effect. You probably use figures of speech all the time without knowing what they're called, and the names aren't really that important, except that they have a way of showing up on exams about the English language. So, let's look at the figures of speech. Alliteration. Alliteration is when there is a repetition of sound within a phrase or sentence. For example, "She sells seashells on the seashore." "Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers." "The dog dug deeper into the depths." "Nikki's necklace nipped at her neck." Anaphora. Anaphora is when a word is repeated multiple times within a phrase. For example, "He had one apple, one banana, and one pear." "My life is happy, my life is simple, my life is complete." "Every morning, every afternoon, and every evening, I walk by the lake." Antithesis. Antithesis is applying a juxtaposition of ideas which are contrasting in a statement that is balanced. For example, "Man proposes and God disposes." Love is an ideal thing, and marriage is a real thing. That is one small step for man and one huge leap for mankind. Apostrophe. Apostrophe is speaking to an object or item that is not alive as if it were, in fact, alive. For example, "Oh, come on, you stupid door, just unlock." "Thank you, oven, for helping me make this meal." "Come on, trousers, you have to fit me." Assonance. Assonance is the similarity in sound between vowels in the middle of neighboring words. For example, how now, brown cow? On the side of the hide. Top of the pop. Chiasmus. Chiasmus is when two sentences are balanced against one another, but with the words reversed. For example, work to live and do not live to work. She went to town, off to town went she. You forget what you want to remember, yet you remember what you want to forget. Euphemism. Euphemism is the replacement of a phrase which might be deemed offensive with one which implies the same meaning but does not carry offense with it. For example, instead of he died, you would say he passed away. Instead of going for a poo, you would say going to use the bathroom. Instead of she had an abortion, you would say she terminated the pregnancy. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is a term which uses an exaggeration to add a more dramatic meaning to the sentence. For example, my bag weighs a ton. I have a million things to do today. His nose is the length of the river Nile. Irony. Irony is a statement which conveys the exact opposite meaning of what is literally being said. It is also a statement which contradicts the situation. For example, the pilot had a fear of flying. The fire station burnt to the ground. What lovely weather, she said when it was raining. Lightities. Lightities is an understatement which applies a negative to express the meaning of the affirmative. For example, that dress is not too bad. I wasn't unhappy with the gift. She isn't the friendliest woman in the world. Metaphor. Metaphor is when there is a comparison made between two different things which share something in common. For example, his eyes were ice. The world is your oyster. She was the shining star of the talent show. Metonymy. Metonymy is when a phrase is replaced with another which has a similar meaning, used to describe something in an indirect manner. For example, I remain loyal to the crown. My husband is considered a silver fox. The pen is more mighty than the sword. Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a word which resembles the sound it is describing. For example, My watch ticks loudly. The crow cawed overhead. The bacon sizzled in the pan. Oxymoron. Oxymoron is when two words in a phrase contradict one another. For example, that cat is mighty small. Our farewell was bittersweet. The girl next door is pretty ugly. Paradox. Paradox is a statement which contradicts itself. For example, he is a wise fool. It is the beginning of the end. Deep down, Anna is really shallow. Personification. Personification is when an object which is not alive is given human qualities. For example, my car is a real beauty. That rod will take out someone's eye. My alarm clock screams at me every morning. Pun. A pun is a play on words. It uses a word to give a different sense to the sentence and add a double meaning. For example, an egg for breakfast is not easy to beat. I spend a lot of time doing do-it-yourself, so I know the drill. The two guitarists got on well, as they were always in accord. Simile. Simile is a phrase which compares something to something else using the words like or as. For example, I felt as high as a kite. The dog is as fit as a fiddle. Her hair was as golden as the sun. Synecdoche. Synecdoche is a statement in which only part of something is expressed to relate to the whole. For example, he has just got some new wheels. There were many hired hands in the factory. At school, the children learn ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Understatement. Understatement is a statement which is made to be less important than what is actually being conveyed. For example, I only have $2 million. The Grand Canyon is a hole in the ground. There was a flood in the town. It must have rained a bit in the night. There you have some common figures of speech in English. There are actually dozens of them. We've just picked some common ones. Don't worry if you can't remember them all. It's usually the most common ones, like simile and metaphor, that tend to show up on exams.